I look at these, what I see is a rather interesting collection of Art Deco travel images, really from the golden age of travel. So, should I give you the good news or should I give you the bad news? Well, I'm going to tell you something. The piece isn't real.
It's not real.
I'll tell you what. I will trade you the estimate if you let me wear your hat. And in fact, this poster ties for the most valuable single piece I've ever appraised. And I think that at auction, you'd be looking at between $7,000 and $10,000. Wow. I would estimate it between $1,500 and $2,000.
Holy cow.
Hallelujah, I was hoping you were going to say. I love what I do. And when you work with graphic design, and work is your life, and life imitates art, sooner or later you begin to see design all around you, everywhere. From the most mundane to the majestic, these daily aesthetics, whether beautiful or dull, they largely go by unnoticed. They can be functional and taken for granted, but they are all around you, everywhere. Hundreds of signs, objects, and signals compete for our attention every day. Which brings us to more works from Czechoslovakia, now Czechia, with Alfons Mucha. And I'm going to start the bidding here at $15,000. Would you bid 16 now? 16,000, thank you. At 16,000, 17,000 I have. 18,000 now in the room, 19,000 here with me. Bid is on the Swan app now at $20,000. Sold, $22,000, thank you, on the Swan app. Morning. Hey, Danny.
Good morning.
Hi, Diana. How's it looking?
Really great.
Morning.
Hi.
I'm Nicholas Lowry. I entered my family business, which is an antiquarian book business and auction house specializing in everything antique on paper. My professional focus is on vintage posters, and I have been working with vintage posters for almost 30 years now. And through that interest, I have become somewhat interested in collecting Czech graphics and therefore interested in Czech graphic design. Maybe the best of all Czech travel posters. Travel to Prague. Look at that beautiful twilight scene with the castle of Vltava. It's like maybe one fish jumped. You have the ripples going in the water. Just one of my favorites. At some point in one's professional career, it's possible to come across something that can change the course of your life. And for me, that was the Abeceda, the alphabet book by Karel Taiga, a masterwork of typography, photomontage, and poetry. Reading it, enjoying it, experiencing it, set me off on an adventure to a city that I hold near and dear in my heart. Oh, she doesn't want me to go. Every time I start packing, she does that. The shirts.
The shirts.
The ties.
The ties.
The pocket squares.
Pocket squares.
And the socks. I've spent so long wearing these suits that my life has begun to imitate my art. And so I don't wear these suits all the time. I don't sleep in these suits. But if I do an auction, I'm wearing a suit. And I have over 60 different suits. And somewhere in my life, I really developed a tartan fetish. So my suits are all a certain pattern. They're window pane, they're tartan, they're tweed. You know, I like to look like an appraiser, not just be an appraiser, but look like an appraiser. And For someone who's so interested in graphic design as myself, I think these suits have become my identity, and I couldn't be happier to have a closet full of them. Actually, I have 2 closets full of them. Got them. So I think that's everything.
Do you have your glasses?
Glasses I have.
Mustache wax?
Mustache wax is a great thing. I have that in the toilet kit.
Hairbrush?
Hairbrush I have. We're done. It was actually easier than I thought, with your help. Thank you. Have you ever felt an urge, an impulse, something triggered by an image or a word? Something that calls to you, no matter how far you have to go to find it. My father was born in Prague in 1932, and we're a Jewish family. So when the Second World War started, the family had to leave Prague, and they left Czechoslovakia. By some accounts, they were on the last train before the Germans shut down the rail system. They went from Prague to Paris. The Germans invaded France. They had to leave Paris. They went to Lisbon in Portugal, where they waited to book passage to America, and they finally arrived in New York. My father was 9 years old, and on the few times that I've been with him back in Prague, I watch as the language that's buried deep inside him, at best he speaks Czech like a 7-year-old boy with Czech as a second language. I watch as the language bubbles up inside him and he begins to remember what he used to know, and he is able to speak Czech better and better as time goes on. This abeceda drew me to the heart of Europe. As far as excuses to visit Prague are concerned, this book is as good as it gets for me. Let's just start with P, for Prague. The P looks like a sign at a crossroads, much like Prague itself, a city which has crisscrossed my life multiple times. I wonder what's in store for me this time. I'm not a big planner, but I do trust in this book to guide me on my trip. Ah, St. Václav, good King Wenceslas. Nice to see you looking out again, you old monarch, you. Oh, I'm fine, thank you. But between us, I'm the one getting older. You've hardly aged at all. Glad to see you still have your particular sense of humor. Just like all Czechs, poking fun at national symbols, the authorities, and even themselves. Fortunately, I still have some friends in Prague who I can count on to put me up for a while. I just hope my old friend Martin has moved on from the unglamorous flat we shared as students in the 90s.
Come on in.
Oh, this is nice.
Well, this is it. This is the place. It's my grandma's old apartment. You know, it's rather simple. There's the phone if you need to call someone. There's a little kitchen corner, fridge in case you need to cool something, little sitting area, the bed, and the bathroom is around the corner. No neighbors, that's the advantage. So you can do here whatever you want, and you can stay here as long as you want. And here are the keys.
The last time somebody told me I could do anything I wanted, I got into a lot of trouble. But this is great. It's going to be a great home base for me to work from, and I'm thank you for letting me have it. It makes a big difference.
Well, I mean, as I say, you can do here whatever you want and stay as long as you want. And you'll be spending a lot of time at my place anyway, so we'll have a lot of fun on this trip. And I wonder what all you are going to find here.
Oh, my friend, if only you knew. I don't really know what visual treasures I'll uncover following this abeceda, literally an ABC of design. I bet the best place to start my quest will be in the Museum of Decorative Arts. M, as in museum, life and heart, two powerful lines. For me, posters are my life, and I couldn't be happier at the current exhibition of ones from the turn of the century through the 1930s. I'm also lucky to have Petra Dočekalova as my guide. She's a designer, calligrapher, and an accomplished typographer. Her knowledge and appreciation of these posters far surpass my own. Look how simple it is. Absolutely, it's like pure, beautiful, absolutely incredible.
I adore your vision, only you are looking at the graphic design. I'm looking at the typography. So I can see the accents and the weird shapes. And
we're sort of looking at the same thing, but from different angles. And now that you have opened my eyes, I mean, the typography is fantastic. But frankly, if it was a different typeface in the same layout, well, for me, it would still work. That's funny.
For you, it works. For me, completely opposite.
My father used to tell me that in trying to figure out what is a good poster, the best benchmark by which to go is, does it make you smile? If a poster makes you smile, then it's effective. And it can do that with bright colors, with a funny image, something that when a passerby is walking by on the street, they just have a second or two to see the poster, and the poster can impress its image upon them. So it behooves that poster to be as bright, as beautiful, and as funny as possible. I mean, in many ways, you can think about posters in the pre-internet world, which many of them were, where they were conveying social messages quickly for passers-by to absorb.
Prague was very famous for his lithographs, but because when you can take a look how big the cutting...
The chisel.
Chisel.
Yeah.
Chisel, exactly. It must be pretty huge diameter and pretty exact at the stars. And look at the C and O, how the proportions of the typeface differ.
But now all of the posters that he designed all had the same typeface, I think. I might be wrong.
You're wrong. There are several...
Wojtek Prajsik's posters helped establish the idea of an independent Czechoslovakia. These were created during the time he lived, worked, and taught in America. They embody the style of modern propaganda, clean, striking, persuasive, and playing on patriotic emotions. While in America, Prajsik also created the famous eponymous typeface, Prajsik Roman, which continues to inspire today's typographers. František Zelenka, who did so many posters for Voskovec and Berek for the Osvobozenie Divadlo, the design, the concept, I mean, he really helped put the performers on the map, from what I understand. I mean, they were famous enough, but with his graphics, they became, you know, frankly, it was their identity. This poster by František Zelenka visually encompasses the technological changes that transformed the Czech nation from part of an empire into a dynamically driven republic. The message here is clear. A beautiful, modern car, fast, stylish, and totally cutting edge, ushering in a new era. Women cut their hair short, and men, for reasons totally unknown to me, shed their giant mustaches. Flowers and other embellishments eschewed for images of the machine age, train tickets obsolete, as automobiles launched Czech society into an exciting new age. Some of the classics of Czech Art Nouveau, we have Alfons Mucha. It's like it's impossible to have a poster exhibition anywhere in the world without him, and here we have just a few samples. His work was so well known and so highly regarded that Art Nouveau is frequently referred to as le style Mucha, the Mucha style. Born in Moravia, he moved to Paris, and his best work was in the years between 1896 and 1903 or so. And his images are filled with Art Nouveau flowers and flourishes and designs. I think even people who don't know the name Alfons Mucha immediately recognize his style and his work. Look at the D in Mede, and then the D is continued over here, and then it is used again over here. It's like Mucha was consistent, huh?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So you approve of Mucha's typography?
Absolutely, I love it. Yeah. Nobody is even noticing the typography on his posters because they are fascinating by the line work and the curves and the anatomy.
Alfons Mucha is universally recognized as being the master of Art Nouveau, but less known is that his meteoric rise was a stroke of luck, a happy historical accident. The story goes that on Christmas Eve in 1893, when Mucha was a struggling artist in Paris, he was staying late at the publishing house where he worked, and the phone rang. As the only one around, he answered and took on a rush order for the famous French actress Sarah Bernhardt, who needed a new poster for her play Gismonda. Mucha's captivating design, tall, pastel-colored, and with Byzantine ornamentation, took Paris and then the world by storm. When you come to Prague, you can see that the influence of Alfons Mucha, not just the influence, his work is everywhere. In the early Czech state, Mucha designed army uniforms. He designed banknotes for the First Republic. He designed the interiors of some house. If you see the beautiful Obecný dům, which has these glorious murals inside by Mucha, everywhere you go, you can get a feeling for this Mucha style when you're in Prague. No, I didn't steal this from the museum, but every once in a while you find something in the gift shop that's just perfect. I can just imagine my grandparents hanging this on their walls. I love this piece. The poster really resonates with me too. It's a great way to brighten up my little sanctuary. Art dealers say, nature abhors a vacuum, and I'm happy to fill it with something this good. What does the abeceda make of Mucha's stylized D? I saw a trail on the ground with the bow being drawn from the west. That trail drew me west to the next stop on my graphic design pilgrimage. Maybe at some point when you were growing up, you were told that you were too old to play with blocks. I don't think that'll ever happen to me. But it's no coincidence that I'm here with this giant-sized replica of Ladislav Sutnar's children's toy, Build the Town. We're here in Pilsen, the town of Ladislav Sutnar's birth. And more specifically, we're here at the aptly named Sutnarka School, named after Ladislav Sutnar, this incredible facility where art students can come for a 6-year program. And inside, we're going to meet one of the great scholars of Ladislav Sutnar, Josef Váchal, who's also a friend of Sutnar's extended family.
Tady.
Hello.
Vnímám jako jedno oblíbené tedy heslo Sutnarovo, a to bylo Keep it simple. Všechno, co děláte, milí studenti, je výtvarný jazyk. To je jazyk, to je komunikace. Takže nedělejte to zbytečně složité. Udělejte to čisté.
Sutnar was also a product designer. These building blocks for children, which he designed in America around 1942, really highlight some of his signature design elements, bright colors and basic geometric shapes. They literally put the construction into his constructivist approach to design. He also designed these sleek porcelain and glass tea sets, some of the many affordable quality household products he created for his work as art director of the publishing house DP. One of the best Czech designers was Ladislav Sutnar, whose design work in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and 50s literally set the stage for information graphics going forward. Sutnar was a designer and a teacher here in Prague, and in the late 1930s, he went to New York to design the Czechoslovak Pavilion for the New York World's Fair in 1939. While he was there, World War II broke out. He wasn't able to return home, so he stayed in America, where he began work on industrial catalogs for a company called Sweets. Once in America, Sutnar used his exceptional design skills to help organize the mass amount of information swamping American consumers. Using infographics, diagrams, graphs, colors, and geometric forms, he was able to streamline visualizations through ingenious design systems. Sutnar's ingenuity organized complex visual information into easily legible graphics. His work is a precursor to the clarity of today's digital information systems. It's clear Sutnar's range of visual expression had many playful facets. How can you explain the difference between this sexy, stunning geometric work from the end of his career to the earlier, more functionalist designs that he did in the 20s and 30s?
Tak samozřejmě tam to je užité umění, Tohle je volné umění. Čili to je trošku jiný vesmír, skutečně. Ale stojí to všechno na společném základu té prostě geometrie a toho dokonalého systému, který pod tím jako je. Pod tím jednoduchým barevným znakem je velice složité propočítávání a vážení těch barevných hmot, aby vytvářeli ten efekt, jaký on chtěl.
Maybe people aren't familiar with Sutnar's name. Maybe they're not familiar with his work, but everybody knows one specific design element that Sutnar introduced into mainstream America and in the world. When you dial a telephone number, when you look at a telephone number printed in America, the area code is in parentheses. This tiny little step, this was invented by, pioneered by Sutnar, who had the idea to do that as a way of conveying numbers in a much more legible fashion. Literally trailblazing, and nobody realizes that every time they look at a phone number, they're looking at the design work of Ladislav Sutnar.
Alphabet soup and building blocks satisfy some, but hardly all of our needs. My grandmother knew this and took advantage of it with her exclusive line of rubber products. I'm just going to leave that there for a second. But for now, let's stick to another Czech desire, beer, and how that passion translates into graphic design. A trip to the Pilsner Urquell archive is the perfect place to find that out. Archivist Jana Domanicka has just the expertise to pour us a pint of delicious beer design.
Here you can see our beer mats collection. It should be a timeline from the oldest to the brand new.
The golden colors of hops and grains are key to the traditional designs of beer mats. The design shouldn't look too modern. Czech drinkers demand an old world style, and the designs give them a sense of coziness and warmth. Traditional brands link generations and society, and a sense of continuity binds these designs together. It's a visual procession of slow, golden comfort.
Oh, this is like I've been doing this all my life. Co myslíte, že jako skoro perfektní, že jo? To jako tady pracuju nebo něco.
Tak.
It really is, it's delicious.
Of course, younger, hipper, less established brands abandon these traditional methods and promote their products in a playful, funny, more boldly graphic way, giving us a glimpse of what the beer branding of tomorrow looks like. Speaking of brands, one of the great Czech commercial success stories is a company recognized and trusted by people practically all over the world. B, the book says, shines like a lantern of the Milky Way. In world marketing, that glow emanates from the small Czech city of Zlín, the former seat of the Baťa Empire. A visionary and innovator, Baťa created a business in the 1920s that was also an ambitious social project without parallel in Europe. Starting from nothing, he built a self-contained city for his working families, complete with educational and social infrastructure. As the company proclaimed at the time, we don't make shoes, we make people.
Shoes! I need shoes. Buy shoes. Sell shoes. Sell more shoes. We need more shoes. I have to be able to pay for this elevator. Martin, hi, did you get my message? You wouldn't believe what's happening right now. I'm on the 10th floor of the Zlín headquarters, of the Baťa headquarters in Zlín. This is the best office I've ever been in.
Looking at these posters, they are not exceptional design. They are basically visual catalogs. They show the product, they list the price, sort of very straightforward. The only consistent part of the design from poster to poster to poster to poster is the logo type for the company, Baťa. Everything else is very straightforward, very practical. A century ago, Baťa had already achieved something that all modern corporations long for, a brand as a lifestyle and social philosophy. His was functionalist modernism intertwined with a social vision. Each pair of shoes came with their own small piece of utopia. After decades, Zlín is no longer a synonym for Baťa. Now, other brands follow in his footsteps, connecting the traditions of shoemaking with the soul of the modern world.
Oh yeah, like if the shoe fits and it matches your suit, I'll take these. These are nice, thank you. These are good.
Right, easy, easy, steady. I definitely think I may have bought too much. No, right here, right there. Don't fall. Whew. Baťa's vision deserves better. Neither his vision nor his hard work could save his family property from criminal regimes. Fortunately, his family, like mine, managed to flee the Nazis. But their property, also like my family's, was confiscated under the communist nationalization. I wonder if the Baťa children, exiled in Brazil, grew up hearing stories about their family business like I did in New York. How the most famous brand of prophylactics in Europe became part of the Czech rubber industry. It leaves a bitter taste. Not the beer, the history. After my visit to the museum with Petra, she invited me to her studio to learn more about typography. And who better to learn from than one of the best typographers in the country? In addition to her other artistic achievements, Petra hand-wrote the oath of office that the current president of the Czech Republic signs upon his election. T, like typography. Double gallows. Thousands perish beneath it. That sounds awful. But we're just talking about letters. Society creates and discards typefaces all the time, and we're always in need of new ones. I learned more about this at Studio Briefcase, where I was able to talk with Petra and her colleague Radek Sidun.
The typography is something like extension. It's a part of the visual culture we can actually afford. I mean, as the society gets developed more and more, I mean, we have a more design, but you know, do we need more music? Do we need more art? We not necessarily, but we like it and we can afford it.
So then why is typography important? Why spend 10 years working here? Why is typography so important, Petra?
I would say it's just a micro world inside of itself, and typography is all over us every time, every day. We see it on books, we see it on streets, we see it on every sign we are passing by, and someone is behind those fonts, and the average human doesn't even know that someone created those letter forms and that those letter forms has even more than 2,000 years old history. So we are the guys who are developing new letter forms and also studying them and trying to develop even better shapes for contemporary technologies and contemporary styles, trends, techniques, and everything.
German was the main language of the Czech lands under the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Czech only became the official language after the founding of Czechoslovakia in 1918. But a large German minority lived here through the end of the Second World War, and many, like my family, remained bilingual. This explains why German played such an important role in local typography.
Most of the typefaces that were used here were from Vienna or from abroad. And
German-speaking countries, basically.
Exactly, German-speaking countries. And the boom of creating the original Czech typefaces, Czechoslovak, was made after the Republic was established.
Due to the diacritical marks, which are part of the Czech alphabet, Czechs either had to design their own typefaces or adapt existing ones. Not nearly as easy as it might seem. Who wouldn't be happy with a gift of an oversized letter? But this is no ordinary bee, my friends. No, it's not. This particular bee comes from a typeface specifically designed for and named after this film, Identity. The bee is part of an entire alphabet, just like the Abeceda by Taiga. It was created for us by a partner at Studio Briefcase. It's great, right? It will also be very practical for other uses. There are many studios dealing with typography in Czechia, not just in Prague. In fact, the true bastion of typography is Brno, also a B. The Republic's second largest city is so famous for its typography that it gets orders for fonts from all over the world, and not only from countries that use Latin letters. Fonts are designed for Greek, Arabic, Hebrew, and many other alphabets, as David Březina and Anna Stepanovska told me here in the Rosetta studio.
Also the Indian languages, Devanagari and Gujarati, we do.
Now we have Tamil typeface
as
well.
Yes,
and we plan to support hopefully all of the Indian scripts, which are 10, 11, depending on how you count.
And so you speak all of the different languages so fluently that you can make typefaces?
No, in general, we collaborate with specialists.
It's important for a type designer to understand the visual grammar of that language, to be able to read it, but the designer does not necessarily need to understand what he reads or she reads. Here's a duo of our, I guess, one of the best sellers, Arabic and Latin font Nassim, which is a family of really was used by BBC on their Arabic websites. And
I would say even first major use of Arabic web fonts online.
Am I surprised there's such a variety of exotic alphabets in a studio in the Czech Republic? You have no idea. And yet, it was all spelled out for me, right in the Abeceda, which literally begins saying, "Oh, palm trees, bring the equator over the Vltava River and bring it straight to Brno." Okay, I added that bit. Sorry, Nezval. In Prague, if you love posters like I do, and you feel like speaking to someone who knows even more than you, then Pavel Rajchan is that man. Pavel's extraordinary collection, which borders on the mythical, contains almost all the film posters designed in communist Czechoslovakia from the 1960s through the 1980s. Surprisingly, the majority of Czech for foreign film posters hadn't even seen the movies themselves.
Oni, ty výtvarníci, měli možnost na ten film jít, jak byla ústřední půjčovna filmu na Národní třídě. Někdo tam chodil, někdo tam nechodil. Byli poctiví, kteří naopak tam šli a snažili se vystihnout toho ducha filmu něco, jako Sladký život třeba, že to je film o marnosti, jako krize západní společnosti, ale někteří tam nechodili. Právě třeba vyletěl nebo někdo, takže pak na poslední chvíli dělali plakát a vlastně udělali ho naprosto volně. Což někdy samozřejmě na překážku, že to s tím filmem nemá co společného.
Under communism, there was no advertising or marketing as we understand it today. The film poster became a kind of artistic accessory to the movie. It was a work of art in its own right, never a means to maximize a film's profits by drawing a larger audience into the theater.
Tady máme West Side Story. Again, it had nothing to do with the film.
Yeah.
It's this wonderful graphic. Maybe it has
It's
to do with
fantasy.
the Western. It's a fantasy. No?
Fantasy with cigarette, American.
And tonic water.
Yeah.
I didn't see this earlier. That's really interesting.
On dělal plakáty od 1960 až do 1989, 300 plakátů. Skoro nejvíc, This is Midnight Cowboy, pop art. Karel Vaca a Zdeněk Ziegler udělali nejvíc filmových plakátů. Ziegler je typický, on je typograf, architekt, takže si jako jeho písmo je vždycky něčím zajímavý, výrazný. To písmo vznikalo ručně, nebyly počítači. To je taky důležité zmínit, že no computers.
From the Western perspective, it's this explosion of creativity from a time when we don't normally associate it with great artistic ventures. And this is just an incredible snapshot in time. One of the great things about movies and movie posters is the perspective that the director takes or that the artist takes. And always up for the designer to find the best angle. Is this really the best angle?
With communist culture and Marxist marketing ideology far behind us, the Czech film poster has returned to its main function, to sell the movie. And few people know more about that than one of the most respected people in the Czech film industry, Martin Palan.
Hey, Martin, you know, in addition to being my landlord, in addition to being my friend, it's safe to call you the Prince of Posters here in Prague. The Prince of movie posters, isn't it?
I would say that would be a little bit of exaggeration, but thank you for coming with me for this poster check in the cinema in Prague.
Yeah, I'm nothing if not somebody who exaggerates, but you are an important person in the film industry here in Prague, and I thought there was no better person to ask, in your opinion, what makes a good movie poster?
The idea that the poster is a tool that is supposed to promote the movie. The poster should be sort of like an artistic component of the presentation of the movie. And this, I would say, is an endless clash that we've always lived through. I don't represent the idea that poster should be an artistic particle of the movie. I really think it's a promotional tool that can sometimes have the artistic qualities. You know, I'm not saying posters should be ugly or should, you know, be representing something completely else than the movie, but I think it's a beautiful momentum when you achieve to have a poster that catches the attention and at the same time represents some artistic quality. But it happens very rarely, because usually it's like the artists complain that the posters are not artistic enough, and when the poster is artistic enough, we complain that it's not selling the movie.
When I look at the posters from the earlier times, from the 1960s, 1970s, even 1980s, I see something that to me really speaks to the identity of what was happening in Czechoslovakia at the time, and they really are a slice of history for the country. Do you have any feeling as to the posters that are being made today, how they represent the identity of the country or how they'll be remembered by history?
You know, I think poster back in those days was one of the few moments how you could actually bring the movie out in another world. Today, you have social campaigning, you have movie clips, you have, you know, variety of trailers and teasers, etc. So the importance of poster is smaller than it used to be. sadly to say.
Sorry.
But
to see the visual identity of a film and film festival created in practice brings us to the letter K. K for Karlovy Vary. The Czech spa town and site of the world-famous film event. Nezval writes, "The beam flies back and forth. Mirror, is this my likeness? I take that as a yes." Movie lovers, glittering celebrities, fans, critics, artists, autograph seekers, and even backpackers from all over the world have been coming to the Karlovy Vary Film Festival since it began in 1946. Aleš Najbrt, whose studio has been designing posters for the festival since the 1990s, well understands how a strong visual identity can unify and brand the event for all audiences.
It was in 1995. We began with this poster, and it was a special year, 100 years of cinematography. And
Aleš himself was part of the festival's graphic identity in 2002 when he was on its poster and sung and danced for its promo.
For example, this year, which is 52, is based on the little game with identities, with the idea that every visitor can be an actor because he's acting in his life, and sometimes he's thinking that he can be like Belmondo. And for example, Belmondo is acting like a common person. So it is the game which switch these roles.
In recent years, a new generation of graphic designers have helped define the festival's identity. They largely use the festival's edition number as the central theme of their designs.
We started this poster before the COVID, and of course it looks a little bit like eyes. We made some animations when the eyes are moving, looking to you, like the viewer, and so on. And then the COVID came, so that started to make even more sense, because you can see just the people's eyes, because everyone was wearing a respirator, of course, even during the screening.
You said it looks a little bit like eyes. When I first saw this, I only saw the eyes.
Yeah,
and it took me a second to see 55.
Yeah, you're right.
I designed the 49. If you see 49, it's okay.
Já jsem viděl pes, bohužel.
No, it's
Já mám domů jako malý pes, tak jsem viděl.
But this is funny because no one from Czech people immediately recognize that it's a pig. But if you are not Czech, you read it like a dog or some other animal.
When you are good at something, you make it look easy, and everybody thinks it's easy. Don't get me wrong. I can only imagine how tough it is to keep producing exceptional designs for a world-famous festival. They modernized a socialist cultural event into one ready for the international spotlight. I know it takes hard work, long hours, creativity, enthusiasm, and talent, and that Czechs have a knack for these ambitious business projects. How do I know this? It's basically my family history, that's how. I first visited Prague in 1985 while the communist regime was still in power. The year I graduated from university, that was the year of the Velvet Revolution, so I had the chance to return to Prague as an English teacher. It was such an exciting time to be here, so much so that although I came on a 3-month teaching contract, I wound up staying for 4 years. I wrote restaurant reviews for an English language newspaper, had a daily English language radio show, got to learn a little Czech, I learned a lot about Czech culture, and the whole time I couldn't help but think, what if things had been different? What if my family didn't have to leave the country before the Second World War? What if their successful business hadn't been confiscated by the Nazis and then again by the communists? We had such a successful company, famous all across Europe. Primeros, that manufactured and sold vulcanized rubber products, primarily condoms, and it was all taken away, twice. We tried, but couldn't get restitution. Yet my grandmother would be so proud to see that the business is still thriving today. The logo has been redesigned, and the company now embraces the once persecuted LGBTQ+ community. How's that for a slap in the face to the old regimes? Thinking about my family's history and seeing all that colorful packaging with the decorative logos reminds me of something I encountered here in the 1990s but never really checked out. Folklore. What does my Bible say about F? Woo. Pecking holy birds in a shabby haberdashers, it says. Certainly could be talking about me, but it also fits with traditional folk costumes. And no better place to explore these traditions than in Moravia, home of fertile vineyards, folk customs, and scintillating native design. It's a beautiful day to explore the South Moravian countryside. It's going to be a thrilling afternoon of, in no particular order, wine, graphic design, folklore, folk costumes. I'm not sure which one I'm looking forward to more. Did I mention the wine? There's going to be wine, there's going to be folklore, there's going to be costumes, burčák. I don't know if I mentioned, there's going to be wine. It's a great afternoon. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to discover so many different things, very few of which we will remember, but I think there'll be a great feeling left behind in our wake. Transformuju. Is there a better way to immerse myself in the unique aspects of Moravian culture than by putting it on? I had this chance thanks to Lenka Jurečková, a successful painter who draws her inspiration from the folklore of her native region, Bzenec. Each Moravian folk costume, or kroj, is identified with a particular region and bedecked with visual information. Everything has meaning, from the color and texture of the fabric to the smallest buttons and studs. Each carefully crafted and embroidered element is an exuberant combination of aesthetics and practicality. A little small. The problem is going to be getting out of these boots. I'm going to need a lot of help to get out. But the most interesting feature is the ornamentation, which helps distinguish both the inhabitants of different villages and the designer's creativity. But no measure of creativity can explain why folk ornaments depict exotic plants no local could ever have seen. Vladimír Šácha, a local expert on ornamental graphics, tells us more.
Někdy právě v tom 16. 17. století existovaly na Moravě, ale i v jiných končinách střední Evropy vyšívačské dílny, které byly buď na šlechtických dvorech, anebo třeba v klášterním zázemí. A vyšívali různé ornáty, obřadní plachty a tam se vlastně učili jak stehy, tak i některé motivy a kompozice. A tyto kompozice, tyto motivy se do těch vyšívačských dílen dostaly díky vyšívačským vzorníkům, které byly tištěny v té době v Benátkách. A protože v té době byla móda orientálních motivů, tak se k nám prostřednictvím ten výšívek až do malovaného ornamentu dostaly motivy, které mají kořeny někde v indoperské oblasti.
What was the original purpose of this ornamentation?
Malovaný ornament vznikal pravděpodobně někdy v 18. století. A v té době měl význam možná i symbolický. To znamená, že měl odstrašovat nějaké zlé síly, které by mohly vniknout do domu, proto se maloval okolo oken, okolo dveří, případně se maloval v okolí ohniště domácího, kde měl nějakým způsobem podpořit právě ty místní ochranné bůžky, které chrání ten dům.
Welcome to the Shire, where the Czech hobbits live. No, not really. We're in an area filled with cellars, sklepy, where wine from the local region is brought, stored, and vinted. Area's been around since at least the 15th century, and many of the buildings are adorned with these beautiful folk art ornamentation. Is it graphic design? Not sure I can answer that, but most importantly, inside is a lot of really great, fresh wine. Beautiful day in Moravia. Moravia is a magical place, filled with color, joy, and music. It especially comes to life during the Wine Harvest Festival. The graphic and ornamental identities of the region get into your blood just like its wines. They say these ornaments can protect a home from ghosts and spirits. I'm not sure that's entirely true, or if I need them, but they sure look good. I may not have Lenka's skill, but this will do nicely. Never tell a Czech to go take a hike. They'd be more than happy to oblige. They love to walk in the woods. The Czech Republic weaves together one of the densest networks of tourist trails in the world. At the end of the 19th century, marked roads and footpaths spread through 43,000 kilometers of local mountains, valleys, fields, towns, and suburbs. Iconic signage guides hikers through these trails. This signage, painted and maintained by volunteers, has been an inspiration for many other countries who have adopted similar systems.
Wow.
Ahoj.
Ahoy.
Ježíš, no to jsem rád, že jsi tady. Buď zdrav, ahoj, ahoj, ahoj.
I followed these signs to a traditional tramp cabin where I visited my old friend, Marko Čermák, a lover of nature and freedom, illustrator of adventure books and comics, and above all, a designer of tourist maps. Probably the best guide I could ask for to learn more about the world of trail signs.
Proč nějaký jsou zelený a nějaký jsou červené, nějaký jsou modrý a nějaký jsou žluté? Jak má jinak?
Barevný jsou proto různě, protože kdyby byla všechny ty značky stejně barevný, no tak by se to pletlo. Takhle víš, kam máš jít, že po zelený dojdeš tam, po modrý dojdeš k nádraží, po žlutý dojdeš do hospody. Víš, jak to myslím?
No,
nemůžou být všechny stejný.
To neznamená, že jeden je jako víc těžký než jiný.
Inventing a simple sign that everybody can understand on site is hardly as easy as it seems, yet that's the very essence of graphic design. Maximum information wrapped up in elegant simplicity. One of the most curious, for me, aspects of Czech culture is this connection that Czech people have to American frontier history, to the cowboys of the American West. And here in Czechia, that translates into a lifestyle that they call tramping. And the tramp lifestyle are people who live off the land, they're off the grid. It's just a distinct part of Czech culture that so many people are so enamored with this classic American history, the Native Americans and the cowboys, that they've taken it upon themselves as part of their lifestyle here.
Máte hlad, kluci?
I'm very
jsem s
hungry.
tím.
Jo, tak dobře, no tak...
No jsem s tím.
No prosím, ale ty přijdeš na řadu.
No, bohužel, so I don't eat meat.
Tak na to jsme to tohleto lovili.
I always am prepared, and I brought my own veganský párek.
Dánský párek. Takže budeme pokračovat.
Veganský.
Anyone who knows me will realize tramp culture is not for me, but I thoroughly enjoyed spending time with Marko in his world. Even though it was so completely different from anything else in my life, I totally understand the appeal. But let's be real. Hiking and being outdoors is not the lifestyle for me. Not at all.
Hello. I'm looking for a beautiful new place to go. Oh man, thank you.
I'm much more at home in the urban jungle of the big cities than in the dark Bohemian forests. Happier with the rumbling of the subway than the rustle of pine needles. I say, get back to the city and appreciate the urban designs all around us.
The metro is beautiful, and I'm not just talking about the design elements or the information system. I'm talking about this, the beautiful design of every station. Look at this. Look at this.
People rely on graphic design to orient themselves in the labyrinths of cities, specifically on public transport with its legible, user-friendly design systems. Imagine trying to navigate your way on an underground railway without recognizable pictograms. This was what the early days of the Prague Metro were like. Unintelligible, almost comical images throughout the system evoked laughter and derision. People openly mocked the signage, such as the man with a needle for the handicap sign, and my favorite, the so-called pooping man.
Tahleta záhadná značka označuje měniče mincí. V metru se totiž bez drobných korun nesvezeme a na každé stanici jsou automaty, které nám ochotně rozmění 2 koruny i 5 koruny.
In the 1990s, amateur additions to the system caused even more visual disarray. So a few years ago, the idea was born to create a new, unified information system for all of Prague's public transport.
Replacement bus service
Here in the Pomlovka metro station, they've begun to unroll the new information design system for the Prague metros. I live in New York. I'm very familiar with that subway system. I've spent a lot of time visiting Paris. I also know the London train system. And all I can say is I think travelers will really appreciate the clarity and the legibility and the functionality of this new Czech design system.
The redesign, called Legible Prague, has a clean style that complements the new visual identity of the city's public transport. It's the work of Tomáš Baťa, who's been doing public design projects for over 30 years.
Dneska se design dělá způsobem takovým, aby vyhovoval všem s různou vadou třeba zraku. Úplně na začátku žádná ze stanic metra nebyla přístupná výtahem. Takže to je značení pro imobilní občany. My na všechny tyto požadavky musíme reagovat a do té míry vlastně ty nosiče těch informací se mění. Už jenom tím samotným zadáním. My jsme vlastně dodrželi velikost a předělali jsme to trasování tak, aby to bylo přehlednější, ale hlavně, aby jsme pak tam mohli jednou doplnit tímhletím způsobem tu trasu D, což v tomhle řešení není možné. Děláme vlastně výzkum s cestujícími a ty teda ten náš návrh úplně jako nepřijali. A my jsme přišli teda s dalším novým řešením na prahu revolučním, s tím, že pokud máme k dispozici stále stejný formát a od roku 95, kdy bylo těch stanic zhruba 45, jestli se nepletu, a za 10 let jich bude 70, tak my už prostě tam nemůžeme ty informace dát. Takže jsme řekli, dobře, uděláme to větší, uděláme to uživatelsky přívětivější a uděláme to tak, jak je to v každém jiném metru ve světě. Prostě zobrazujeme jenom jednu linku. Jedu na trase B, vidím linku B. Protože pak můžeme mít k dispozici nějakou přehledovou mapu tohoto typu, která dohromady s tím vlastně vedle dveří vám ukáže vlastně ten celý přehled, celé to trasování.
It wouldn't be a successful visit without some kind of memento, and Tomáš gave me just the thing. As long as I don't turn around too fast on the metro, I should be just fine getting this home. The metro is an obvious place for a legible navigation system. N for navigation. A lover is attracted by love to the lovable, like the connector in the letter N. That's me. And Czech design. And the connection is information. The more, the better. And what greater repository of information than a library? Specifically, the National Technical Library, whose director, Martin Svoboda, agreed to explain everything to me.
Hi, good morning. Let's go inside.
Thank you. Everywhere I look, there seems to be some form of additional communication. Can you show me some of the highlights just here that I'm missing or maybe that are obvious?
Well, the building is symmetrical, but the designer insisted that we point the students to the center of symmetry.
So this is the center
of the building? That point. Mm-hmm. And it is also fit with the coordinates. Mm-hmm. Latitude, longitude, everything correct. Designer insisted that it is always perfect, technically correct.
Future architects, engineers, and builders go to this library to educate themselves. Its interior answers their questions before they even ask. What are the dimensions of the building? How many calories you burn climbing the stairs? And many other technical details. You find these facts everywhere. This whole building is like an open textbook. Even the floor is painted with technical information. These colorful contours show the load levels of the structure on the individual floors. The author of this visual style, Petr Babák, told me more about its conception.
Ta barevná pudla, to má jako velice racionální vlastně výstup a ten spočíval v tom, že architekti vlastně vytáhli výkresy, které jsou reálnýma výkresama průhybu těch pater jednotlivých podlah vlastně. No. Ono je to tak, že každý to patro, tím, že je někde podložený, že jo, někde jsou sloupy, někde jich je víc prostě, tak se to fakt jako takhle vlastně hejbe. No. Jako když to jako představíš, tak to má ty různý průhyby. I ten beton samozřejmě má nějaké jako průhyby a tohle ten reálný výkres vlastně toho, jak se to jako, jakým způsobem z toho hejbe. Jo. Bylo to extrémně složitý na výrobu, vyrábělo se to někde v Německu a tak dále, ale je to vlastně, myslím si, že je extrémně jako důležitý prvek tohohle domu, že najednou tu betonovou masu nějakým způsobem vlastně oživí a zároveň je to zase další technická informace. To není nějaká samoučelná jako hříčka vlastně, ale že to má ten rozměr. Takže jsou tu reální technické výkresy každého patra, každá zvlášť vlastně individualizovaná.
I see this building with all of its information, with all of its orientation systems, and I think if nothing else, this building helps eliminate all doubt. The size of the building, the width of the building, the height of the stairs, the incline of the stairways. Such a fantastic place to be. I wish I could be a student again so I could spend more time here studying every day.
Yeah, well, I believe the students are happy here. And as a matter of fact, you are not the only one who wants to be a student again, me included.
One of the things I remember fondly about my student days was never knowing exactly what to do or where to go next. Prague makes me feel the same way. So much to see, so much to do. If only among these information systems there was a sign. Exit. Well, that's a start. But exit to where? Somewhere in the city? C for city. The romance of the gondoliers is gone forever, so go on, Captain, to America. Go home. Not exactly the exit I wanted, and there aren't any gondolas or gondoliers in Prague. Well, not the kind you'd imagine anyway. Czech design is always moving forward and constantly changing with the times. Even at tram stops, you can see these new influences. My preference is for graphic design to stay still on the page. But to discuss motion design, I was put in touch with Marek Suchanek. I am very old-fashioned. Tell me something about motion design. Like, what is it?
It's a part of digital design. It's like this future or one of the newest phases of graphic design, which used to be on print media and back before on walls. It's just a design which moves on screens. It can be television, it can be laptop, mobile devices, city lights. The new bus stops that are rising in Prague are using a lot of motion designs, which is nice to see, because it can communicate definitely more in a certain time limit than just the print design. It's more engaging, it's more playful. This is the future of graphic design, to be more engaging, more interactive with people, and more powerful maybe in some ways, how to communicate the message.
So this is what the future of graphic design looks like, constantly in motion. This old goat prefers his graphic design the old-fashioned way, on paper, like books. I grew up with a family who ran an antiquarian bookstore. That's more my speed. Even coming from a family of book dealers, I'm still impressed by the Czech love of books. In Czech culture, the book holds a special place. Shoddy paperbacks are rare. Books are well-made, revered symbols of ideas and different ages. These precious objects even have their own museum here, the Museum of Literature. I'm heading there now to meet Martin Pecina, a book designer, typographer, poet, even a connoisseur of Moravian cuisine. To top it all off, Martin has a very unusual way of dressing. We're sitting here in this
for me, like a sanctum sanctorum of fantastic avant-garde design masterworks, book design from Czechoslovakia in the 1920s and 30s. With your experience, can you tell me, is there some common denominator that makes Czech book design, that runs through the concept of Czech book design?
Well, when we look at those older applications, you can see some similarities between it. And I think it was part of the movement in the 20s and 30s when designers and publishers tried to produce books not only beautiful but also cheap, to spread the word, to spread the quality design in confrontation with classic bibliophilia as an older book. They tried to make them accessible to the general public. That wasn't common.
I have to agree with Martin that Czech book designers were tremendously successful in bringing a high level of graphic design into everyone's home. Their work, from typographic minimalism to expressive pictorial concepts, was dominated by avant-garde trends like constructivism, as seen in my Abeceda, conceived in its fascinating form by Karel Taiga. So from your experience, what makes a good book design? What should a designer strive to do in making good book design?
Well, especially when you are designing a novel, you should try to transfer the information from one place to another one. And that means usually from the author's mind to the reader's eye or to a reader's brain. What is the most important is how the design relates to the content. So if you want to judge a book, it's always the best way to know well what's inside and how perfectly the design is executed, because it's not about the beauty, it's about the purpose.
Of course, Martin's right again. It's all about finding the right purpose. I'm best suited to dig out more treasures of graphic design, and professionally, I know just where to go. There's no better place than one of Prague's cavernous secondhand bookshops. Maybe I'll be lucky enough to uncover a real gem of a book. Dobrý den. Mluvíte anglicky?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. I am looking to find some books with their book jackets, with their obalky, designed by some famous Czech designers.
Oh, I see.
Is there anything here?
A lot to look at. So we can go over there and we'll find something for you.
Fantastic, thank you. The communist coup in 1948 dealt a cruel end not only to the development of Czech liberal democracy, but also to its avant-garde. Yet even under that oppression, with its brutal censorship and shortages of everything, including paper, quality book designs still found their way into the light of print for 40 years. There was a lot of reading. Books were published in huge quantities. Eager readers formed endless lines at bookstores all over the country every Thursday as new ones came out. The range of Czech book design is indeed varied, but there is something unexpectedly unique, truly extravagant. E, like extravagant. What compares to you, E? Your 3 lines of E resound, like the train lines supposed to take me to this extravaganza.
Well, we made it to Litomyšl. Now let's go find Josef Váchal.
Josef Váchal. I heard the name in all the old bookshops, spoken in hushed and revered tones. Although Váchal never lived in this beautiful town of Litomyšl, he did spend a lot of time working on commissions here for his patron, the publisher Josef Portman. But it's the inside of Portman's home, now the Portmonium Museum, that really shows Váchal's astounding artistry. I had no idea that instead of an ordinary tour, I was in for a near occult experience.
It's like a magnum opus. So Váchal designed the woodcuts, he designed the typography, he bound the book. It's amazing. Actually, the fact that it only took 3 years seems like an incredibly short time. There are 52 full-color woodblock prints, 276 pages, and although I haven't tried to lift it, they say the entire volume weighs 20 kilos. So that's some heavy art.
Váchal was incredibly versatile. He was a painter, writer, graphic artist, craftsman, and typographer who created books with his own hands.
This is intense. Everything is crazy.
He was also a mystic, an admirer of broadside ballads, an explorer of Eastern philosophies, a practitioner of the occult, and a summoner of the devil. He was definitely an eccentric, somewhere on the scales between genius and madness. Heavy art for sure. His work is the stuff of nightmares. Those frescoes could haunt anyone. It's like one of Váchal's goblins grabbed onto my mustache and came back with me. The ghost? Again? In broad daylight? No. Luckily, it's just Martin.
What have you done? Look at all this.
What do you think?
This is amazing.
Not too haphazard, not too crazy?
Look at all these things. What have you done? Oh my God. Look at you.
I found a few things.
Well, you have created a museum of Czech graphic design.
Seriously? Did I do this? Actually, I guess I did. Yes, like my very own small museum of the wonders of Czech graphic design. I certainly didn't do it alone. My thanks to you, Abeceda, with your crafty ideas and mysterious instructions, your cryptic verses and dancers' enigmatic looks. Thanks, above all, to the Czech Republic and its wonderful graphic design. For when we love what we do and we look with love, there are so many more signs to see.